All right, Saagar, what's on your radar?
Well, a remarkable thing happened Friday evening. Senator Bernie Sanders unendorsed Cenk Uygur after quote-unquote controversial things he said resurfaced on Twitter. The timeline of events is a devastating indictment of Sanders, and it revealed just how much power the intersectionally woke few on Twitter can have over the broader American left, and why ultimately I believed it's mostly a failed project. The saga began Thursday whenever Sanders issued a statement endorsing Cenk for now resigned Congresswoman Katie Hill's seat in California. Quickly, left Twitter mobs began to recirculate Cenk's misogynist blog post from nearly 20 years ago, some comments that he made on Joe Rogan's show, and a few other things. What he said was unquestionably bad. There's zero defense of it, and he himself has acknowledged this in many apologies. But the more and more traction Cenk's past statements got, the more mainstream journalists began to tweet them out and put immense pressures on the Sanders campaign. How the exact unendorsement came to be is relatively unclear. Cenk told the Washington Post that he spoke with Sanders Friday and told him he would rather lose his own election than impair the senator's campaign before he released a statement saying he would reject all endorsements in the race. Now, Sanders followed Cenk's announcement with a retraction of his endorsement, making sure to say his movement is, quote, bigger than one person, a clear distancing move. Now, consider this. Bernie Sanders unendorsed Cenk Uygur, a man who has probably raised millions of dollars for his campaign over the years through the creation of his news network, but he continues to maintain politically toxic Linda Sarsour as a campaign surrogate. The turnaround of Cenk took all but 24 hours. The bowing to the outrage mob by the many people involved in this, it demonstrates who has the real power on the American left, and who exactly can determine what moves for political expediency can be made by these candidates. Anyone with common sense knows that Bernie bowed to the outrage mob because the woke elements of the California Democratic Party already have their knives out for Cenk, and he desperately wants to win that state come Super Tuesday. The best part is that most of the people who were so-called outraged at Cenk's past statements, like Jill, did not care whatsoever about what he said in the past. If any of these people who did tweet about it want to prove their outraged bona fides, they can show me their outraged tweets at homophobic blog posts made by Joy Reid many years ago. I won't wait with bated breath for that evidence, and the past statements were not made out of genuine concern, but as a political weapon against a person who has railed against the mainstream media narrative for many years. And the entire episode validates a core problem for Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and other members of the American left. No matter how much you want to tout progressive economics, the intersectionally woke members of your coalition will always impose their PC litmus tests upon you. They will not allow a single concession from these candidates to the cultural right, and many will demand representation in any future administration that they are likely to hold. If they are rebuffed, they're going to scream like hell. They're going to get their media allies to assist them in brutalizing you in the national press. And the thing is, if a progressive actually wanted to win in this country, then concessions, or at least a little bit of respect for the other side, is going to be needed on cultural issues. This is the only actual way that states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, and others will ever get back into a Democratic column. And while the American left is eating its own, my brethren on the right are beginning to wake up. As I said on Friday, the Conservative Party in Britain has successfully distanced itself from economic libertarianism. It's got concessions to the left on healthcare, climate change, and the minimum wage. And their economic center-left policies are married to a staunch defense of conservative cultural values. And the result is the most successful election in modern UK history for the Conservative Party. Donald Trump tapped into this somewhat in 2016, and if my side wins the brewing Republican civil war over the future of the right, similar returns are guaranteed in our favor. And the American left would do well to listen if they want to compete, because a marriage of woke Twitter with progressive economics is doomed to complete failure. And I think, Crystal, this is one of the most revealing episodes that I've seen in a long, long time. Now, look, I understand the defense the Sanders people make of Linda Sarsour and all of that, but the fact that they will continue to defend her, right, who has an unquestionably longer track record of problematic statements which are politically toxic to some people, relative
and that's
to what
got kicked out the Women's March.
And relative to what Cenk said like 5 or 6 years ago with some uncouth comments made over 20 years of broadcasting, and he unendorses him.
Right.
That shows you that they basically forced Bernie to bow to the outrage mob, these elements in the California Democratic primary who all hate Cenk. And I think it's a terrible precedent to set.
Because you cannot give these people a freaking inch.
Yeah.
Because what? They claimed a scalp, and now they'll just do it again the next time because it is so clear. And look, full disclosure, Cenk is a longtime friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. He was one of the first people who ever took my congressional run seriously before anyone did, the ideas of my campaign. So look, let's just put that out there. But it is so clear what happened here. Cenk is a threat. Cenk is a threat to the establishment in this town. Cenk is a threat to elite media, and they will do whatever it takes to take him down.
Right.
There's just no doubt about what's going on here. To the point, New York Times, the paper of record, even, there's
We're gonna
plenty,
talk about this
there's
later,
plenty enough there to work with the comments he actually said, which again, he apologized for. There's plenty to talk about there. But they actually had to go and pretend like he gave David Duke some puff interview and agreed with him that he's not a racist, when that's exact opposite of what he did.
I watched the clip.
You can
That's
do
all
that
it
in New York
takes.
Times. I mean, yeah, he was clear. He was so aggressive with him because everybody knows what Cenk is, what he stands for, and that thing is just ludicrous. But I have to say, I mean, I agree with you. I'm disappointed in the way that the Sanders campaign handled this because I don't doubt that Cenk did come to them. I take him at his word that he said, look, unendorsement, I'm not going to take any endorsement. That's fine. But you don't have to go that extra step and say, I take it back and it's bigger than one movement. Because again, you give these people an inch and they will take it all. You can show no weakness in the face of this kind of onslaught. And this kind of cancel culture bullshit is what's wrong with the whole movement.
And how do they understand this on Linda Sarsour and not on Cenk? That's what I want to get to, which is
I support the decision to keep Linda. Stand with the people that stand with you.
And that's what I'm saying, is this man raised the Sanders campaign millions, was the only person who stood with them in 2016. It is a profound act of cowardice to leave behind the people who fought with you in the trench whenever it really comes down to it and it actually matters. And now, by the way, you think any of these these Hillary acolytes who were tweeting about Cenk actually cared and give Sanders credit? No! They were all like, oh, you shouldn't have endorsed him in the first place, right? It was a knife and a hit job from the very beginning. And it all goes to this one point. Cenk has gone after them for so many years. They saw that opening to take it out on somebody they already hate like Bernie and on himself. This is a political knife job from the very beginning. And it's outrageous that Bernie would bow to this. And again, this is what my broader point is. If he bows to this now, he's going to bow when he's president. The entire American left is going to bow because these people appear to hold all of the power. And the only way they don't hold the power is if you stand up and you say, no, never bow to the mob.
Well, and your point about Joy is really well taken. Joy, another friend of mine, a former colleague who I happen to disagree with a lot on politics, but I still consider a friend. Look, she wrote this stuff in the past. She's apologized.
Okay.
She's okay. Let's move on.
Well, she never apologized. She claimed she was hacked.
You can't hold one standard with one person and one standard with another person. Think about the values. I care so much more about getting Medicare for all so that people can actually live and have health care and not be bankrupted from their doctor's payments, their co-payments, than I do about what he said on Joe Rogan's podcast or whatever other misogynist, which again are not acceptable, but he's apologized for. And if I think about the values, the choice is completely clear. These people don't care about the values. All they care about is protecting the status quo.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up on Rising,
we talk about how the media handles Senator Sanders on endorsement of congressional candidate Cenk Uygur.
we've got more to say on that.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Michael Brooks, is going to be here to tackle that and more when Rising continues.